Folks, buried deep inside the House reconciliation bill is a 10-year ban preventing states from defending themselves from uses and abuses of artificial intelligence by the federal Leviathan. If this provision makes it into the final bill, critics say it's a clear attack on state sovereignty. Joining me now is West Virginia Attorney General Jamie McCuskey. It's good to see you, Mr. Attorney General. A group of AGs from various states have come together to denounce this provision, demanding the U.S. Senate remove it. What's your take on a federal government tying the hands of your state, saying you can't regulate artificial intelligence and any abuses the federal government wants to unleash onto your state?
So I think from West Virginia's standpoint, and I think from a lot of the energy producing states, what we see AI is the next great frontier on American energy production. And the amount of coal and gas that we're going to need to burn to make the electricity that's going to make America the leader in AI is going to change our economies forever. And so there is a really interesting question here, and that is, do we want to have a unified national policy on AI for the next 10 years, which I think when you look at it, putting a moratorium on when it ends, I think is pretty smart, because there are so many issues that we have to make sure that we are unified on to maximize this opportunity. Allowing there to be a cacophony of 50 states having their own sort of regulations is going to make it very difficult, I think, in the short term for us to maximize this. So what I'm really looking for is for the Senate to look at this smartly and to say there's a balance that we have to find here, which is how do we maximize the opportunity for AI, which both means energy production, but it also means national security. We cannot allow China and Russia to beat us to the punch on AI. It's absolutely the next frontier. But at the same time, we have to ensure that states are given an opportunity at some point to find the parts of this revolution that are specific to their value sets. And I think the Senate will look at that, and my hope is that we find a compromise here that enables all of our huge AI companies to have a level playing field, but also gives our states the ability to say, you know, we don't think AI should be used for this, and we believe that the value set of the people of West Virginia should be sort of tuned against these parts of the AI revolution.
Yeah, and well, the concern is, of course, is the Patriot Act. Folks who supported the Patriot Act may have trusted George W. Bush with those powers, but as soon as Barack Obama got a hold of it, he unleashed the federal government as against our people and against the states. So again, I guess the question is, should states remain defenseless against the federal government, or should they maintain the ability to defend their people, and people like you, who are closer to the people in your state, reserve that right to defend the people who voted for you?
Well, I think you just beautifully outlined the question, right? And I think the answer has to be somewhere in the middle. And I hate to be that way, but at this point, AI is really in its infancy. And what you don't want is states like California, New York, and Vermont, Massachusetts, the really large left-leaning states who are going to have a disproportionate amount of AI influence already, making decisions for the rest of the country. And so that's the other side of allowing a state-by-state sort of regulatory environment, is that the really big states are able to overpower the smaller states like West Virginia. And if the federal government were to come in and say, we want you to produce AI, but we don't want you to use carbon fuels, that would be a disaster for West Virginia. So I'm really hopeful, and I'm looking forward to the Senate coming up with a great answer to this.
Well, we're going to talk more about this, just the technical aspect, coming up later in the program. Let's talk about some lawfare, you and I. You know, in my opinion, it's got to stop, regardless of who's sitting in the Oval Office. Take a look at Missouri Senator Josh Hawley pressing University of Pennsylvania professor Kate Shaw about her views about nationwide injunctions issued by these rogue judges, but her views change depending on who's in the Oval Office. Watch.
The principle that divides when issuing a nationwide injunction is okay, when it's not. When the Biden administration was subject to nationwide injunctions, you said that they were travesties for the principle of democracy. You didn't say the referral to Judge Kaczmarek was a travesty. You said his injunction was a travesty for principles of democracy. Yeah. So, in other words, the translation is just you didn't like the outcome. Is that right?
No, Senator. Look, we're talking about, I don't think Article 3 precludes this form of relief. So we are talking about prudential consideration.
Prudential meaning political?
No.
Then
no.
give me, so far I have yet to hear it. You've been questioned by multiple senators. I have yet to hear a principle other than the fact when you like the ruling, you think it's great to apply it nationally, including non-parties. When you don't like the ruling, it is a travesty for the principles of democracy, notions of judicial impartiality, and the rule of law.
Mr. Attorney General, in my view, district judges do not have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions, period. Shouldn't Congress and the Supreme Court and Chief Justice Roberts do something about this before the American people lose complete confidence in this rogue judiciary?
Absolutely. And we in West Virginia were proud to file the lead amicus against this in the birthright citizenship case just a couple weeks ago. And we were on hand in the Supreme Court to listen to the arguments. And there's several sort of nerdy legal reasons why this is a bad idea. First of all, district courts are based in equity. And we have built our entire judiciary based on the concepts of equity. And secondly, Article 3 does not give them this power. The fact that she said that and is a professor at a Ivy League law school is actually kind of terrifying and a little bit pathetic. And thirdly,
Yes.
There is a remedy. The remedy here is there are things called class actions, right? And that way, when you create a class action, you can ensure that the judge in front of you is only issuing rulings for the people that are in front of them. Our district court judges are only allowed to hear cases and controversies with plaintiffs and defendants that are in front of them. These nationwide injunctions completely leapfrog that and turn them into what are political footballs. And that gets into what is, I think, the most important part of this discussion, and that is the danger that nationwide injunctions pose on the underlying legitimacy of our judiciary. When the public believes that the judiciary is political, they lose faith in them. And the judiciary is the only branch of government whose only power is derived from the public's perception of it. They don't have a police force. What they have is the power of the rule of law, and doing this negates that power and turns them into something that's no better than Congress, and that is dangerous going forward, no matter if it's a Republican or president, a Republican or a Democrat president. We have to stop these nationwide injunctions because they're a danger to the legitimacy of our judicial system.
So true. You know, Chief Justice John Roberts, a Bush appointee, folks, he may go down as the one who destroyed Americans' confidence in the entire judicial system. He may be the guy. J.B. McCuskey, thank you very much, sir.
He also may go down
and
as the person who
expertise.
restored it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having
hope
me,
springs
Chris. Have a
eternal,
great day.
doesn't it? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.